Welcome back, my friends. I hope you're all doing well today. Today, we're going to look at a new subject, a subject that's kind of current in the community, and it is artificial intelligence. So, a couple of months ago, I was introduced to DALL-E, and a coworker of mine introduced me to ChatGPT just a couple of weeks ago. Now, obviously, this subject got me talking with my coworker about the subject of artificial intelligence. So you might ask the question, what the heck is DALL-E or ChatGPT? So basically, ChatGPT is a created kind of artificial intelligence which you can ask almost anything, and it will give you an appropriate response on the subject. For example, you could ask it to give you meal examples which include a certain dietary plan with less protein and more carbohydrates, for instance. Or asked about the similarities between Voldemort and Darth Vader, or even for new business ideas or names for an app. It goes as far as giving you introductions on how to do things like creating an app. Something very amazing if you think about it. Now, DALL-E is basically a further evolved project of the same group which spits out images according to your description. That is just crazy in my mind. These images are created from scratch with information that the AI picks up from the internet and mashes it together to create a whole new picture. Now that you understand what I'm talking about, let's get to my thought. So I asked ChatGPT to give me similarities between Voldemort and Stalin. Obviously, this question wasn't completely random, as I knew that J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter books, and the creator of the antagonist Voldemort, said herself that she based the character on different real-life people. But what was interesting is that ChatGPT answered the question, but stated at the end that it should be noted that one of the two is fictitious while the other is a real person, and the similarities and facts should be carefully used because of that reason. Now, hearing that from a bot was interesting to me, but it did not sprung a thought yet. Later, I asked ChatGPT to describe lying in a positive way, as I was interested what it would spit out. After giving examples of when lies are possibility in instances, like you want to hide a surprise, it gave an interesting starting and ending statement. As an AI language model, I cannot promote or condone lying, as it is ethically and morally wrong to deceive others for personal gain or to avoid the consequences of one's actions. And in the end, it gave the finishing statement, please note that lying can have serious consequences and it is generally not a recommended course of action. It is always better to be honest and communicate openly and respectfully with others. Now, obviously, this is information which was provided by the creators to ensure certain legal security. Nevertheless, it got me thinking, and now hopefully it gets you thinking. An AI uses the words ethically and morally in the same sentence. To me, that is kind of ironic, as AI shouldn't have any emotional or ethical attachments and should base its decisions purely on logic and facts. But then again, shouldn't it? It shouldn't, right? Because it's called artificial intelligence for a reason, meaning it shouldn't be just a computer making rational decisions. No, it should create basically kind of a mind of its own. Depending on your own thoughts, you think AI can be life-changing, either a good way or it will take over the world soon. Nevertheless, I got my brain wheel spinning again because I wonder, if statements like the one that ChatGPT mentioned are fed by a creator, can you really call it AI? Since in extreme cases, it will just say something that it was taught to ensure a certain legal security. Is AI dangerous or something powerful to use for good? In my case, I think a computer making decisions purely on logic and facts is something that can be used for good. However, I wouldn't say it should make these decisions and the actions that come with it. It should be more on an advisory level. Taking a classic ethical dilemma example, the trolley problem. If you are unaware of this dilemma, let me explain it quickly to you. So you got the train that is running on its track. Now ahead are 5 workers on the right track, which do not realize the train, meaning if the train keeps going, the 5 workers will die. But there is an option. You can pull the lever and let the train run on a second track. Here's the catch though. On the second track, there's a single worker performing his or her duties. The problem with this example is that no matter the choice, it is always going to be bad. Now, an AI, for example, would solely base on facts choose to save 5 workers with only this information given because of the simple math 5 against 1. A human might have a lot of more struggle with this decision, understandably. Now, where I think AI can help is to make these decisions clear just based on the facts. For instance, let's say a human has to make the choice, but for the sake of our thoughts, has all the time necessary to make that choice. In the example of the 5 workers are the same, but the single worker is someone the person knows well. Do you think the person would still choose the single worker to save 5 now that an emotional attachment has been detected? Since the computer, at least how I think of it, would not change its decision, giving the human at least a more rational decision. The person still might pick the single worker, but at least there's a rational option to think about. Now let's further evolve that plot. Let's say the person would pick the 5 workers over the single one because of the factor 5 to 1. But now there's a new fact. The single worker is actually the only person that knows how to create these tracks, while the other 5 just do what they're told without the actual knowledge. Let me stop quickly. Obviously, this scenario becomes more and more unrealistic, but that's not the point. So the computer might now actually suggest to save the single worker because of the knowledge factor, while the human, probably already wanting to just go home and thinking of anything else, now has to make an even more difficult choice. It doesn't matter at this point how the story ends. The point is, the computer will base its decision on facts, not on emotions. And I think this can be valuable. Hence why I said it should advise but not decide. I don't think it should actually decide the fate, as sometimes I think human emotions are necessary for certain decisions. A good example for that can be seen in the movie I, Robot with Will Smith. Don't worry, he did not slap anyone there. Maybe he did, I'm not sure. Don't worry, you didn't have to see that movie, although I would recommend it. So basically, there were robots, like people acting fact-based, with the 3 laws of robotics in place. More on those later. Will Smith has a car crash with a girl in another car. Both drop in the river. A robot jumps to them in order to save them. However, it chooses Will Smith instead of the little girl because his chances of survival were higher. So the robot chose according to facts and numbers rather than certain emotions, like the girl still has her whole life ahead of her as Will, who already was an adult. This is a good example of why I wouldn't want a computer to make the decisions, but rather only be in positions of advising. Now let's finish off this session with the 3 laws of robotics. A topic that I really had to research in, but is very interesting. Did not know that this is an actual real thing that happens, but it's also in the movie. Crazy. I always love it when things just connect. I apologize now for the official description of them, but I believe if I mention something specific as this is, I should also explain quickly what it is. A robot may not injure a human being or, though in action, allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey orders given it by a human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. So to me, these laws seem logically correct, but then again, kind of ironic, right? Because isn't artificial intelligence supposed to be a more quick and advanced human brain? Obviously, emotions aside, because of what I heard, was at this point, it is only information that we can feed the AI to react a certain way depending on the situation. But since it should evolve itself more at one point, doesn't these laws seem ironic since humans do not have them? And if it happens, give a robot an issue on not deciding at all, since the laws forbid it from deciding something. Obviously, the subject of artificial intelligence is complex and not just black and white. Something I can neither cover in one episode nor be able to cover completely, as my knowledge of it is not thorough enough, even if my episodes are all about that point. In any case, it is something to think about. Have a nice night, guys.